An ostensibly a good day today concerns our friend Harry Miller, a regular on this show, and I know you've had a lot to do with him. He's the copper or the former copper who was approached about a non-crime hate incident in which he allegedly circulated a sort of transphobic poem. And he took the police to court and said, "Why are you recording this? I didn't commit any crimes. This is a bizarre practice that intrudes on my privacy and my right of freedom of expression." To a large extent, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, has backed Harry up. He's kind of won the case, although the police will still be able to record non-crime hate incidents. Why are the police allowed to record incidents that aren't crimes?
Yeah, well, it's a really good question, Kevin, and it's no small thing either. The Telegraph did an FOI request last year and discovered that between 2014 and 2019, in that 5 year period, police forces in England and Wales had recorded 120,000 non-crime incidents. That's an average of 65 a day over a 5 year period, and we've no reason to think it's diminished since 2019. It's probably increased. It's absolutely baffling that the police are spending so much time investigating and recording non-crimes when they could be investigating and solving actual crimes. There was, I think, a statistic we saw earlier this year, which is that something like 1 million burglaries over a 5 year period between 2015 and I think 2021 have gone unsolved. And you'd think the police would have better things to do than investigate someone like Harry Miller for making an inappropriate joke on Twitter, particularly when we're in the midst of a knife crime epidemic in some of our major cities. So I think this verdict today was really helpful, and I think it will push the College of Policing in the right direction. Now, the College of Policing have reacted by suggesting that if they make some minor adjustments to their guidance, which tells police officers to record these non-crimes on the National Police Database in such a way that they show up on people's criminal records, if it makes some minor adjustments, they will no longer be unlawful. But I think it's wishful thinking on the College of Policing's part. I'm not sure that they can easily, or that easily, overcome the hurdle of the Court of Appeal's judgment today, which was pretty unambiguous. It said that the recording of non-crime hate incidents is an unlawful interference in our freedom of expression and a violation of our Article 10 rights under the European Convention on Human Rights. That's pretty strong language for the Court of Appeal, and I think it's going to be very difficult for the College of Policing to rewrite this guidance to make it lawful. And I think the next battle to be won, Kevin, is to try and get the police to delete these hundreds of thousands of what we now know are unlawful records against people's names in their databases, which are recorded in such a way that they show up on people's criminal records when they apply for certain jobs and DBS checks have to be done. So I think it's a huge step forward, but it may not yet be the end of the war.
Yes, because the judge at the High Court told the College of Policing to come up with new safeguards to make sure that any future recording of non-crime hate incidents does not disproportionately interfere with the legal right to speak their mind. Well, I would have thought this is a good case for the Free Speech Union, because I think the police ought to be able to be told, you cannot do this. Your job is to investigate crime, to deal with criminals, people who have broken the law. Your job is not to record personal details of people who have not broken the law. I mean, this is quite a big issue, isn't it?
It is quite a big issue. Harry Miller was, intimidated by Humberside police, or at least an attempt was made to intimidate him because of his gender-critical views. He doesn't think that trans women are women and should enjoy exactly the same rights that women enjoy. He's a defender of sex-based women's rights. He thinks sex is biological and binary. Those aren't particularly contentious or controversial views in the broad scheme of things, yet because a trans activist had complained about Harry expressing these views, albeit in a fairly robust, in some cases humorous way on Twitter, he was told by a Humberside police officer to check his thinking, and that these tweets would be recorded as a non-crime hate incident. That seems like a deliberate attempt to stifle a contribution to an important and as yet unresolved public debate, which is completely inappropriate in a modern liberal democracy.
Yeah, for the listeners and the viewers to Talk Radio TV, just to explain, the way the police approach complaints about alleged hate crimes is you phone them up and say, Toby Young just called me a horrible racist name, and they just write it down. And whether or not they pursue it, they write it down, and then that is used in the statistics to assess how many hate crimes there have been. So that isn't necessarily the fact there has been a hate crime, it's just someone has phoned up and said there was one, which is another reason why I think the police have to be very careful here. The problem here, Toby, is the police in these kind of areas do not react well to being told what to do. I'm mindful of the Operation Midland inquiry, after which the police were ordered to stop referring to people who've been arrested or to people who accuse people of crimes, particularly of rape and such like, as the victims. They said you cannot call someone a victim until they prove to be a victim. And they carried on. They just completely ignored it. So they have a kind of self-appointed mission going on here to carry on what I think they feel is good work, keeping tabs on an increasingly hate-infested public.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure that it's the police not wanting to be told what to do, but more that the people telling them what to do are activists and lobby groups like Stonewall, many of whom exercise a considerable influence over the College of Policing, which issues this operational guidance, which the police then slavishly follow. I think it's partly that the police aren't being given an opportunity to exercise their discretion and their common sense, that they've got into this pickle and have ended up doing things, following guidance, which has turned out to be unlawful. The real problem, Kevin, is that the police are increasingly, because they've outsourced their thinking to these various activists and lobby groups, and this body, which, as I say, is largely dominated by activists and lobby groups, they've ended up taking sides in these contentious political issues, like should trans women be regarded as identical to women in every respect. That's a big area of public debate on which people haven't made up their minds yet, and there's an ongoing public debate about that. So the police really shouldn't be taking sides in that debate. If you look at the way the police policed lockdown demonstrations, anti-lockdown demonstrations, compared to the way they policed Black Lives Matter demonstrations, it looked as though they'd made a political decision to tolerate, to give a pass to the BLM protesters, but to enforce the very letter of the law when it came to the anti-lockdown protests. And the authority of the police, their legitimacy, depends upon them not taking sides, policing without fear or favour, being politically neutral. If they take sides in the way that they are, if they side with organisations like Stonewall and Gendered Intelligence on these contentious political issues, they'll lose much of their authority and they won't be able to do their job.
I couldn't agree more. Last question, Toby. As I say, non-crime hate incidents. I still don't understand why the courts would even let the police do that at all. And I think they should be stopped because their only interest should be in crimes, not non-crimes. This sounds like a case for the Free Speech Union.
Well, the Free Speech Union has been involved in this case. We've been supporting Harry Miller, and we told Harry that if he was unsuccessful today, we would have helped him pay his legal costs. As you know, Kevin, in cases like this, the loser has to pay the other side's costs. And the College of Policing has run up hundreds of thousands of pounds in legal bills. And had Harry lost today, he would have been saddled with that bill, and we would have helped him. But this shows, I think, just how courageous he's been in
Yes.
taking on this particular case. He stood to lose an awful lot, including his house. So it's a huge relief, both to him and to us, that he's been successful. It really is a landmark free speech victory, and I hope, the beginning of the end of this Orwellian practice of recording non-crimes.
Yeah, me too. I hope it is the end for that. Good to talk to you, Toby, as always. Toby Young, Director General of the Free Speech Union.